Hi everyone, welcome to Level Up. My name is Priyanka Nair and today we will be doing grade 9 English. But before we get started with the chapter, there are a few things I want to say. To start off, number one, I want to wish each and every one of you all a very happy Independence Day. If all goes well, this video will be uploaded by the 15th of August. So happy Independence Day to each and every one of you all. Um, Next thing that I'd like to say is please do share, like, and subscribe to our channel because it is a great encouragement, and sharing this video with everyone you know definitely helps serve the purpose of our organization. And moving on, a little disclaimer before we get into the chapter. I'd like to say that I know this is English, and the traditional way of teaching the English subject, especially in CBSE, is reading out the chapter and explaining what each line or what each para means. However, since this is not a poem, it is in fact a literary piece. I do not think that's necessary at all, and I don't see how it helps. So, what we will be doing today is learning a little bit about the author because it is always nice to know where the author is coming from when he's writing the story, what kind of pieces he usually writes, and we can also know and analyze whether this story that he's written corroborates with his previous stories. And also we'll be doing a detailed summary or just to know what the essence of the story is, and we'll take a look at a few questions with which if you know the answer of, you'll be good for this chapter. Again, however, that does not mean that if you learn the summary and if you know the answer to these questions, you're done for the exam that you're preparing for. That is not how it works, but it definitely will give you a boost, or it's good to do so much, at least during your holidays. So, with that, let's get started. We will be doing The Lost Child, which is from the Beehive textbook. In grade 9 CBSE, we have two English textbooks just for literature, Beehive and Moments. So, this chapter, The Lost Child, is from the Beehive textbook. So, about the author of this chapter, The Lost Child, is MULK Anand. As you can read, he was born on December 12th, 1905, in Peshawar, India, which is now in Pakistan, and he died on September 28th, 2004, in Pune. So, that basically means that he did live for more than 100 years. He was a very prominent Indian author of novels, short stories, and critical essays in English, and he was known for his sympathetic and realistic portrayal of the poor in India. I'm not sure if you all know this, but he is known for a few books that he's written, and those books are Untouchable, Coolie, and Across Black Waters. And all these books are based off of characters that are poor and originate from India. And this chapter, actually, The Lost Child, doesn't necessarily revolve around the character being poor, but there are a few parts where you will understand that, oh, his family or his parents couldn't afford for everything he asked for, and it was just a village fair. So you probably don't understand anything that I'm saying now, but as we move on and we read the summary, you will get an idea of what I'm talking about. Moving on, he is considered a founder of the English language Indian novel, and the person you can see on your right, the picture, is the famous Mulkraj Anand. Okay, so before we get into the summary, I just like to say that there isn't a very good flow in the sentences that I've written to in the summary, only because I have looked for points that are important. Like for example, the first point here, it was a season of spring. However, like usually people don't give English a lot of importance when preparing for exams, and so you don't read the textbook enough, or you don't read the textbook often, and you might tend to overlook such things. Or even if you read in the chapter but you don't read with enough concentration, you might overlook the fact that it was season of spring, and this could be a potential one marker. So I have taken into consideration question, or in fact like facts or details that are important exam point of view, so there isn't a very good flow, so bear with me on that. Anyways, moving on. It was a season of spring, so it was probably around March, April in India, and people had come out of their houses, people from the village, and they were all dressed in colorful attire, and they were walking towards the fair, the village fair. Now, this colorful attire is basically stands for gaily clad humanity. So in your textbook, you will notice that they have mentioned the same thing, colorful attire, in very fancy terms called gaily clad humanity. So I have noticed that in one of my exams that I had written, it wasn't expected, but the question was, what does gaily clad humanity refer to? Write in your own words. So people who aren't very well versed or don't read a lot of don't have a very good English standard. They might speak English very well, like they might converse very well. But if you don't read enough books, you might not know what it means. And even when you're learning for English, knowing the meaning of words that look fancy to you or you've never heard of before is very important because they could be asked in your exam. So do remember, keep in mind that gaily clad humanity here basically means colorful attire. And moving on, a child was going with his parents towards the fair. And he was very excited and happy. Kids when they're young, they're very excited to attend fairs or circuses or something like that. So this boy here was very excited, and he was attracted to all those stalls of toys and sweets. However, his father got angry that he was demanding or getting distracted by materialistic things, and his mom tried to pacify him by telling him, or by distracting him with other things or diverting his attention towards other things in the fair. So the child moved forward, but he used to lag behind his parents every time because his eyes used to catch on to something that looked very appealing or very attractive. So this is basically the what happens throughout the story, but let's get into little details. So now as the child entered the fair, he wanted a lot of things that he saw in the stalls. So first thing he wanted was sweets. His mouth watered when he saw the sweets that were decorated with those golden and silver leaves, and he wanted his favorite sweet was burfi. Again, keep this in mind. They might ask what was the main character or what was the boy's favorite sweet in the chapter The Lost Child. Keep in mind the answer is burfi, but he didn't ask his parents, or he knew that his parents would refuse because they might think that he was greedy. So he moved ahead. Now he saw beautiful garlands of gulmohar, but he didn't ask for it because his parents would again refuse. And then he saw balloons, but again he knew his parents would refuse because they would say that he's too young to play with such things. And so he moved ahead. Now, now later he saw a snake charmer and a roundabout swing. So do keep in mind that all this time, like when he saw the burfi, when he saw the gulmohar garland and all that, he never really ask them vocally, like out loud. But when he used to turn around and ask, like look at his parents, like asking for their permission, he would be met with their glares, and he knew, okay, my parents don't agree of me asking, and they disapprove of me demanding, and so he'd keep quiet and he'd move ahead. But this time, when he saw the roundabout swing, he was really tempted to ask them. So he stopped to ask his parents for permission to enjoy the swing. But to his astonishment, he didn't hear any reply, and that's when he realized when he looked ahead, like when he looked around him, that he couldn't find his parents anywhere and that he was lost in a fair that had thousands of people in it. And now he ran everywhere, here and there, to try and look for his parents, but he couldn't find them. And he was crying inconsolably, and he got terrified. But then this kind hearted man took him in his arms and consoled this bitterly weeping child. And he asked if he would like to have a joyride on the carousel or on the roundabout swing. But this boy replied by crying, saying, "No, I just want my mom and I just want my dad." uh, uh, Keep in mind, actually, it's not I want my mom and dad. It is I want my father, I want my mother. The sign is also very important. Do not mess it up. So, again, the stranger tried to just to console this child, to try and pacify this child. Whatever this child had wanted and wished for earlier in the fair, like when he asked for the burfi, when he wanted the gulmohar, when he wanted to enjoy the snake charmer, this stranger, just to pacify the child, offered him all these things, but at the end of the day, this child didn't want any of it, and all he wanted was his father and his mother. So that's how the story ends. It ends with the line, "I want my father, I want my mother." So we don't really know, or the author doesn't really tell us if this child did find his parents in the end, but we can assume that he did, because at the end of the day, it was a village fair. He probably could have, like how we do when we get lost in the mall or something, we go to the customer service and ask them to make an announcement. So this child could probably have done the same thing, and he probably did meet his parents in the end, but that's up to us to assume. However, at the end of the story, I think what we do understand is that at the end of the day, materialistic things don't matter. It's the people in our life, especially our parents, that do have a permanent place in our life. And I haven't mentioned this question in the possible or the potential questions or like the list that I have made for this chapter, but a possible question could be, how does the reader know that, or how do you know after reading this chapter that it is materialistic things don't are very temporary in a person's life? And you will have to cite this entire incident And I haven't really mentioned it here in the summary, but in the textbook it is very detailed when he couldn't find his parents, what he goes through. It is very detailed, that entire experience. Please read that experience a lot of times, because I know during exams people don't really take English seriously and you don't really learn a lot for English. You probably do practice for grammar, but you don't for literature. However, it is very important to read as much as you can, read the chapter that you can as many times as possible, because like for example, this term gaily clad humanity, if you're not going to read the chapter enough, it won't stick in your mind. But when writing your answers, especially for literature, if you use these terms that are already mentioned in the textbook, it does leave an impression on your teacher. So do go through such the chapter as many times as possible. Okay, so now let's take a look at, I've just mentioned three questions here that are very important for this chapter. Number one, what are the things the child sees on his way to the fair and why does he lag behind? So here you will have to mention Barfi, the balloons, the Gulmohar garden, the snake charmer, and the carousel or the roundabout. So that's the answer to this question, but it can't just be so brief, you need to be detailed. And again, another another tip I could say when writing exams, please, like especially when you're writing like a 4 mark question or a lot, sometimes like at least in the exams that we used to write for literature, we used to have 8 mark questions as well. So such kind of questions is instead of writing it in paragraphs, I think it's better to split your entire content of the answer into points. It is not as easier for you to know what you have missed out on when like reviewing your answer in the end, but it is also easier for the invigilator to correct, right? Because they have an answer sheet to them and it's easy for them to know, oh okay, she's mentioned this point, he's mentioned this point, okay, 7.5 or 8 marks, something like that. Anyways, moving on, the next question is, when does he realize that he has lost his way and how have his anxiety and insecurity been described? So as I said earlier, that experience is extremely important. Exactly mentioning how it happened is leaves a very good impression on the invigilator. So please learn that. I'm not telling you to learn English by heart. That's impossible and it is a waste of time, definitely. But do the chapter as many times as you can. Um, thoroughly, there's no need to by heart then. Those words will automatically, like, there will be a flow in your mind when you're writing the answer. Next, why does the lost child lose interest in the things that he had wanted earlier? This is again the question I asked previously when I said, how does the reader know that things are very, like, the materials for things are temporary in life? This is somewhat similar but framed in a very different way. So to conclude, this is the last slide for our video today, and I have only mentioned three questions here. However, if you do look at our website, which is also linked below in the description box, it is www.leveluporganization.wixsite.com/levelup. You will see a lot of worksheets uploaded, not just for English, but also for other subjects. So we're still currently editing our website. So it might take a little time for you to access all the resources you want, but we are getting there. And English will be uploaded by the end of today. So, or the end of the day that I'm uploading this video on. So do look at that. And again, guys, please like, comment, subscribe to our channel, and most importantly, share this video on, because I'm sure all of you all have social media platforms, or at least your parents do. So share this with your friends at least. It will be a good way for them to. I'm not saying that just learning or just viewing our videos is enough to write your exam. Definitely you have to go through your textbook. Going through guides also helps. But the day before your exam, just going through a video like this is what I used to do before my exams, even before my boards. I used to just go through videos to have an overview of the chapter, like a final revision, because that way it's not like you're taxing yourself too much. You don't have that pressure, oh okay, I'm studying, like I want a break. That need for a break is not there, because it is fun to watch a video on YouTube. So do share this with your friends. It's a nice way to um, relieve your stress, but also learn at the same time and be productive. So stay tuned for more videos coming ahead. Today I did a chapter from Beehive. Probably the next video we will be uploading a chapter for English for grade 9 from the Moments textbook. And also stay in touch, and stay tuned for more grade 10 content as well. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.